series September. Now stay out of my room! You know, for a book titled Catching Fire, there's not a whole lot of fire compared to the previous book. Catching Fire continues the story of Katniss Everdeen and her life after finishing the games. It takes a different approach from the previous book, as that was mostly about survival and sacrifice. The story takes place 6 months after Katniss and Peeta won the 74th Hunger Games. Both have returned home and now live in luxury. Now, since they've won the games, they have to go on a victory tour of all the districts in the capital, which usually starts in descending order with District 12. Since Katniss and Peeta are from District 12, the first district they have to go visit is 11. However, before that, Katniss gets a visit from Panem's president, Snow. He tells Katniss that because of the stunt she pulled with the berries, while she is trying her best to convince everyone that it was out of love for Peeta, not everyone is convinced. That's a problem. It's causing unrest in the districts, and rebellion is starting up. What Katniss has to do is prove to the world that it was out of love, or President Snow will have her family and Gale killed. Why not kill her and make it look like an accident? Who will believe that? Anyways, speaking of Gale, he isn't too happy about Katniss and Peeta's relationship. All this time, Gale has had feelings for Katniss, and he even kisses her when no one is looking. Katniss is still very unsure about her feelings, but still pretends to be madly in love with Peeta when the cameras are out. But since it seems that there are eyes everywhere and Katniss hasn't been showing a lot of attention to Peeta lately, that's a problem. Katniss tells Haymitch about this since he seems to know what to do in the situation, but she doesn't tell Peeta about it since he doesn't really have to play relationship as he's actually in love with her. Now the tour. In District 11, Katniss and Peeta decide to give their own speeches instead of the ones that the Capitol provided, which is fine, there's nothing wrong with that. Peeta announces that he will give part of their winnings to the families of Rue and Thresh since they helped Katniss during the games. Katniss then gives a powerful speech thanking the fallen tributes. Now this doesn't seem so bad, right? Well, an old man in the audience salutes Katniss and everyone else joins in. See, this is a perfect example of accidentally starting a rebellion. This wasn't planned. Katniss just wanted to say a few words and Peeta wanted to be nice. Well, apparently the government doesn't think so and the old man was shot right in front of her. The peacekeepers actually tried to rush Katniss out, but she'd forgotten something and went back, and that's when she saw the shooting. Katniss then tells Peeta what happened with President Snow, and Peeta immediately realizes the seriousness of their situation. The rest of the tour goes on as normal, though, as they read the speeches that the government provided. But there's still unrest amongst the districts. So, to get Snow off their backs, Peeta proposes to Katniss at the Capitol, and she accepts, and everyone makes a big show of it. But Snow isn't satisfied. Katniss discovers at the end of the tour, when she's at the mayor of District 12's house, there is an uprising in District 8. The common people don't get this kind of news, but government officials have a separate network that alerts them of unrest in other districts. Now, I forgot to mention one important thing in the previous review. Each district has a set of peacekeepers assigned by the government to enforce the law. The peacekeepers in District 12 are not as harsh as other districts, like District 11. See, poaching is against the law in this world, and Katniss and Gale were always outside the fence hunting all the time. The peacekeepers didn't enforce this because they bought kills from Katniss and Gale. Well, it seems President Snow knows about this as a new peacekeeper head is appointed, and more peacekeepers are there to keep control. However, Gale didn't know about this. He literally walked over to the head peacekeeper's house to give him his kill, but the head peacekeeper was a different man. Because Gale was caught poaching, he is taken to the town square and whipped. Katniss intervenes and tries to stop it since Gale had been whipped to the point where he was unconscious. Haymitch later has to intervene since the head peacekeeper didn't recognize Katniss. The head peacekeeper relents since he doesn't want to get in trouble with the president by hurting one of the Capitol's biggest stars. Katniss and Peeta, along with some others, take Gale back to Katniss's house where her mom starts patching him up. Apparently this wasn't the first time whippings took place in District 12. Katniss really needed to get into the woods to clear her head, and she met Bonnie and Twill, 2 people from District 8. They confirmed that there was an uprising in 8, but they escaped and are planning to make their way to District 13. Wait, isn't that supposed to be in ruins? Apparently, the government keeps showing it in ruins, but they reuse the same footage over and over. Which can either mean they're just lazy and don't want to travel all the way there to confirm it, or there's something there that the government doesn't want anyone to see. Katniss also learns that apparently the graphite mining in District 13 was a cover and that they actually worked with nuclear weapons. Yeah, that's something the government would likely want to hide. Apparently the residents of District 13 are supposed to be living underground. Well, Katniss makes her way back home, but discovers that the electric fence separating the woods from District 12 has been activated, meaning she can't go home. Normally, she waits it out until it's turned off, but with a new head peacekeeper, she doesn't think that's going to happen. She climbs up a tree and jumps over the fence, injuring herself in the process. When she gets back to her house, there are peacekeepers there who are surprised that she's home, and they tell her that the gate's going to be active for 24 hours a day now. While Katniss prepares for her wedding, she later learns that Districts 3 and 4 have begun an uprising. Well, things are certainly not looking good on Katniss right now. Now, every 25th Hunger Games, the Capitol puts a twist on the reaping of the games. This is called the Quarter Quell. The first Quarter Quell for the 25th Hunger Games was everyone had to vote for which kids would participate in the games. The second Quarter Quell for the 50th Hunger Games, the one Haymitch one, was that there would be double the tributes, so 48 instead of the traditional 24. This year, the Quarter Quell is that the tributes in this Hunger Games will be from the list of victors from each district. Since Katniss is the only female victor in her district, that means she's going back into the games. However, at the reaping, Haymitch's name is drawn, and Peeta volunteers in place of Haymitch. Now, there's nothing that can be done to stop him. The Peacekeepers don't even let Katniss and Peeta say goodbye to their families. They're just whisked away back to the games. Haymitch tries to help some more since he's back in the mentor position, but this time the strategy is different. Since most of the victors are good friends, he wants them to make allies. They try their best, but Katniss makes friends with some of the weaker tributes. And now the interview section. This was a very interesting scene to read a second time, because apparently the entire interview was each victor basically asking the government, "Do you really want to upset the people who live right outside your doorstep?" Which actually riles up the crowd in the Capitol. They are literally shooting themselves in the foot with this Quarter Quell. And to make matters worse, during Katniss's interview, she twirls in the wedding dress that President Snow wanted her to wear, but Cinna styled the dress so that it would turn into a dark dress with wings, making her into a Mockingjay, which is the symbol of the rebellion. So yeah, Cinna's days are currently numbered. And Peeta riles up the crowd even more by telling the audience that Katniss is pregnant. She's really not. All of this riling up does not cancel the games. This literally just encourages the government to pressure the game makers into making the game end as quickly as possible. Before the games begin, Cinna is beaten and dragged out by the Peacekeepers, as Katniss is sealed behind the elevator that takes her up into the games. This was meant to rile her up. It did, but not in the way President Snow intended. The arena this time is a jungle with a large ocean water lake. The arena is also very small, as Peeta ran right into a force field, which did stop his heart, but their ally, Finnick, from District 4, brought him back with CPR. The current party right now is Katniss, Peeta, Finnick, and his mentor, Mags, an 80-year-old woman who volunteered to be in the games in place of Finnick's girlfriend. While they are exploring the mighty jungle, a poisonous fog enters and they have to flee, but since Peeta is still recovering from being back from the dead, he's lagging behind. Finnick carries Peeta most of the way, and Katniss tries to carry Mags, but she can't hold her for long as the fog causes muscle spasms. Mags goes into the fog and dies, which allows Katniss, Finnick, and Peeta to escape. While everyone is recovering from that experience, Johanna from District 7 comes over with Wyrus and Beetee from District 3, and allies with the party. Wyrus is in shock from everything that's happened so far, but is able to get across that the arena is built to resemble a clock, with each hour having one horrible event happen in one section of the clock. At noon and midnight, lightning strikes a specific tree. The party decides to go grab some weapons back at the cornucopia where the tributes from Districts 1 and 2 are likely hanging out. But Wyrus is killed. Katniss and Johanna then kill the tributes from District 1. They escape back to the beach, and Beetee plants an electric trap with the wire he has and the lightning from the tree. The plan is to set the wire in the water, and once the lightning strikes the tree, anything that touches the water will be electrocuted. But as they're setting it up, the District 2 tributes interfere with the plan. Johanna knocks Katniss out and runs. Katniss makes it over to the tree and realizes that Beetee was actually trying to send a massive amount of electricity into the force field, which would damage it. Or poke a hole in it. Katniss wraps the wire around an arrow and shoots at the force field right as the lightning strikes. She is knocked out and picked up by a hovercraft from District 13. She learns that the head game maker, Plutarch Heavensbee, is actually part of the rebellion and even gave her a tip to how the arena would be structured with his watch. Haymitch and the victors from Districts 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, and 11 were in on the whole scheme. But they couldn't tell Katniss or Peeta because they knew the government would likely try to capture them first, and the less they knew, the better. This whole scheme was built so that they could escape, and they wanted to keep Katniss alive since she's the Mockingjay, the face of the rebellion. They kept Peeta alive because they knew that Katniss wouldn't join in on their little scheme if he died. Well, Katniss isn't too happy about being used, and really isn't happy when she learns that the Capitol picked up Peeta, Johanna, and the girl from District 2, Enobaria. Katniss will not talk to anybody until she wakes up one morning and sees Gale, injured. He tells her that her family is safe, but District 12 has been destroyed by the Capitol. And that's where the book ends. It is the middle book in the trilogy, so you shouldn't be that surprised. Now, a brief analysis. It's now even more the age-old dystopian trope of taking down the big bad government. Only this time the concept is now, what if you accidentally started a rebellion and became the face of the rebellion? That's literally what happened. There's still a little focus on the people, but not as much as it was in the first one since the main protagonist is now a celebrity. The government is also very controlling in this world. President Snow is literally trying to scare her into making this all work, and explains that the government is fragile and could fall at any moment. First of all, they brought this upon themselves. Second of all, they are literally shooting themselves in the foot by going through with that quarter quell twist. I get the angle that President Snow was trying to go for here, but at the same time, it's really dumb. Compare this to, say, 1984, where I mentioned that the government doesn't just try to outright kill the protagonist, but they brainwash him into conforming to the government ways. Although I will be real here, there's so much unrest already in this part of the story that even if Katniss were brainwashed, the rebellion would still go through. I think one of the most important parts that I thought was fascinating was the reactions of the people in the Capitol to all of these events. The victors were using their status and influence to get the people on their side and rile them up. While it didn't cancel the games, it sure made a lot of people very, very mad. It's a fascinating thing what media can do to a person. You'd be surprised. Also, let me talk for a minute about Katniss and Peeta's relationship. Throughout the story, Katniss is very unsure about her feelings, but we start to see that she's starting to care about him more and more. She even pressured this big rebellion to keep him alive. Now, Katniss actually does feel the same way about Gale, which is another reason why she's so unsure about her feelings. I think her feelings were very clear within the last couple of pages, though. Overall, reading this with a new lens was a fascinating experience, but I'm going to be real here. Everything felt a little bit rushed and forced, just a little bit. Plus, I didn't like that Katniss was forced to go back into the arena. I'm sure that sounded good in the author's head, but the way it was executed it didn't feel right. Plus, there was heavy emphasis on rebelling against the government this time, instead of the previous book where the main focus was on survival and what can cause humanity to start killing each other. There were some good parts, but it's still just the age-old style of dystopian future. Protagonist must take down the big bad government. It is a middle book, so it does end on a cliffhanger. But still. Now, in the movie, there were so many parts that I remembered from the movie that I thought, oh, that has to be a liberty taken. But it actually wasn't, which was weird. Also, the movie felt a little more rushed. Everything went by so fast. I think the reason why it's written that way is because Katniss is going through everything so fast. But still, give us all a few seconds to comprehend what the heck is going on, please! In short, you may read it if you so desire, but it's not as great as the first one. The age recommendation I'd give is 15 and up. This book is pretty violent as well. While the story does feel fast, I feel it doesn't really pick up until much later in the story. This was another one that was popular amongst kids of my generation, but it wasn't as interesting as the first book. We'll see if things pick up again later with Mockingjay. Happy reading, everyone! You can't hide from me forever, masters.